Good
Hello.
evening. Good evening, guys. Welcome to the show. Sorry, there's a bit of a pause there before I came on, but yeah, welcome to the I Want to Believe show. Welcome, Chatty Cathy and lovely Linda. How you guys been?
I'm good. Yeah, not bad at all. Actually, been pretty good. It's been an okay week for sure. How about you, Linda?
Yeah.
You too, Pete. It's been good for me. I mean, a little crazy, but all weeks are crazy. I figured summer would slow down, but it's not slowing down.
No, it's not. We're still fighting fires here. We at the beginning of the week that they were starting to die down a little bit and things were going to start getting cooler. And then we had evacuation alert on the west side of Kamloops, and which is very close to, well, not close to where I am, but it's a kind of a midriff to where the core of the city is. So if it comes in this way, it's going to take a good chunk of the city out on the way through. So pretty bad times here. Still pretty bad, but hey ho, such is life. Anyway,
are they going to evacuate you?
No. Where we are, because we're over the north side of the river, and there's a big breakaway, and there's a lot of kind of infrastructure around us. Like, fair enough, the infrastructure can catch fire and stuff like that, but there isn't much dead. There isn't much desert around where we are, like dead trees and bushes and stuff like that. Right. So it would be very, and I don't mean to jinx it, but it'd be very difficult for this part of Kamloops to actually, go up, which is fortunate more than anything else for us, but unfortunate for other people kind of thing. But
there's a lot of fires everywhere. Hey, California, Greece is on fire. We got most of BC on fire. Like, it's pretty crazy right now.
Yeah, even northern BC, like right far up towards like Kitimat, where I used to live before, like that's like predominantly green, and there's section around there like Northwood Terrace that have just gone ablaze, and they can't even control it. They're just leaving it to burn, and it's at a point now where it's going towards like reserves and stuff like that.
Right.
So they're going to have to start doing stuff about it. But yeah, this year's been absolutely crap, but. Could be worse. Could be in England. Could be with the smog, the rats, the plague, and bad teeth, and that kind of thing. Mary Poppins fish and chips.
Yeah, baby. Isn't that what Austin Powers says?
Yeah. Anyhow, this week we decided to just change up a little bit. We're not going to have a guest this week. We're going to go a little bit freestyle between us three, and just going to talk a few subjects. And
some smack. No, I'm just teasing. I said talk some smack. No, I'm just teasing.
Talk some smack about people, and talk down about people and that kind of thing. But no, we're just going to, I've got a list of topics and subjects, and we'd just like to hear the ladies' opinions on certain things, and might be able to spike some questions in the audience as well to see what you guys think as well. So I'm going to start from the very, very top. So I guess the very first subject that we should be talking about is demons.
Oh.
Wasn't expecting that, were you?
Oh my God.
So,
it didn't have the little horns, though. It would have had a better effect.
I was trying to look for the. I was trying to do something earlier on to put horns on him, but I just didn't have the time. So I just went with that. Anyway.
Oh my God.
Anyway, back to reality. Anyway, so okay, Cathy, what is your opinion on demons?
Okay, I know that some people do not believe in demons. They prefer to refer to them as negative entities, whatever. I I do have opinions on demons. I do feel that I personally believe very much in angels, because I work, on a psychic level with a higher realm. I tend to work with angels, with guides. So, if I'm going to go in that realm, obviously I have to, as they say, you have to also believe on the other side as well. I tend to have a little bit of a different maybe view in some aspect in regards to demons, in that, of course, as investigators, the first thing somebody does is when they phone us is, I got a demon, and I tend to think, though, that I'm not saying that demons can't possess and stuff like that, because of course, we've had that experience, and especially you, Peter, working with an exorcist and stuff. But I do tend to think those are very lower level, meaning not as, they're not going to be Satan, the God supreme, or anything like that, the demon supreme, let's put it that way, or God for the demons, you know what I mean? I don't feel it's going to be that. I do feel that demons can find a way to infiltrate if you allow them to be. But in the experiences that we've had with, whether it's negative entities or demons, the people are always in a place that there's substance abuse, alcohol abuse, abuse in general, like, emotional, physical, whether it's inflicted upon themselves or it's inflicted, from others. And I do tend to find that it seems to happen to those that stay and prefer to stay in a low vibrational field. So it's the woe is me. Oh, my whole life sucks. And oh, everything bad happens to, and because that, I also believe in the law of attraction. So when you take all of that in and you kind of combine it, then that is a prime feeding ground for a negative entity or a demonic entity to come in. And that's how I view it. Now, from the picture that you put up, that may be a higher level demon. You know what I mean? Because the way I look at it is I always kind of laugh, because, let's say I was a demon. Am I going to go try to affect Joe the garbage picker? No. I want to go high up. And I want to start taking over the world. What otherwise, what's the point? So, when you look at it there, I do feel like there's that lower level, and those are pretty much like the pets of the demons, like the very low level. And then you've got the higher level. And that's the way I look at it. But
so what's your kind of view of what it actually is? Is it what is perceived on TV? Like when you're talking freely of like demons and possession and stuff like that, do you think it's what is interpreted on TV, or is it different to that lens?
I kind of want to say it's a little bit different to that. I do feel that there probably is the demonic entity, but I also feel that us within ourselves has many levels of the negative entities that do come out of us. And I feel that if you're in that lower vibration, that's exactly what you're drawing in. You're drawing in that lower higher self. It's not the higher self, it's the lower self that you're bringing through. And maybe there's some aspects within your core self that need to be cleared out in order for you to be in that better place where you're not thinking that I think people like to put their issues and their problems onto a demon rather than sitting there and going, oh, I might have a drug problem, or I might have an alcoholic problem, or maybe I got to change my, my work, my way of thinking, my behavior, all of that. It's easier to say, I got a demon, so I have no responsibility and there's no fault of my own because it's something else. Whereas that something else is probably an aspect of them.
I like that.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that's the way I interpret it, right? So, yeah.
Well, I mean, growing up Roman Catholic and going to church every Sunday, whether or not I wanted to, I mean, we were always taught to believe that, yes, there are angels and there are demons. And demons come from hell. But, you know, after doing this for as long as I've been doing this, I believe totally that they are either from the lower realms or they're manifestations of some thing from the lower realms. I mean, some of them may not have ever even aspired to be human. But I do believe that they come from the lower realms. I like to call them sort of the rogue spirits, you know, that wander around looking for an in. And Kathy, I
Right.
totally believe when you say people who are, you know, depressed or who have addiction problems or who are chronically, you know, woe is me, they tend to you know, invite them in some way. They
Yeah.
open themselves up to that kind of manifestation and infestation. So that's really what I believe. But I also believe that when you watch TV shows, any malevolent entity, and let's face it, an entity can be malevolent if it doesn't like the fact that you have its chair that it had when it was alive. But any malevolent or upset entity is always called demonic. And I have a problem with that because not every spirit that's haunting a location is a demon. It could be real angry, or it could be maybe a bit sadistic because you are in death what you were in life.
Right.
But I do think that they feel compelled to portray them in a more traditional sense. So where we see demons, you know, on TV as being red-faced and they have horns and they've got, you know, straight, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I was raised to believe that that's what they looked like because in the children's Bible, that's what they looked like. So I don't know. I believe that there are demonic presences and there are demonic rogue spirits, whether they
Right.
come from hell or not. I mean, hell is maybe the lower realms. But yeah, I mean, I do believe that there are bad entities that are not necessarily, you know, human-like or have been
Right.
human-like. What about you, Pete?
What I'm gonna like. My kind of thought process behind it, it kind of sounds like I contradict myself, but the terminology demons it has different interpretations in different cultures and has different meanings. So for me, as that for the actual subject word demon, for me to turn around and say no, there's no such thing, it would be kind of naive for me as well because there's, you know, hundreds of thousands of cultures where demons are a part of it. Some in some cultures demons are actually good. Some cultures demons are
Right.
actually bad and negative, as to what we see on TV.
Right.
I think a lot of it is overplayed recently, not so much 10, 15 years ago with TV, where it suddenly everything that's now on TV is demons. Everything now paranormal wise is demons because not because the client is naive or anything like that, but it's their interpretation of what they've seen on TV.
Right.
And they've just seen Bilbo Baggins on TV waving this little glow stick around, shouting out, "There's a demon" and stuff like that. So their interpretation is what they've seen on TV is going on in their place. It's pretty much far from it. I mean, 99.9% of the cases I've done over the last 26 years have been basically a misunderstanding by the client in relation to what they perceived as demonic or negative to actually what was realistically going on in their place. On the downside of that, like I do work with a priest down in Washington State, and I've been working with him now, coming up almost 10 years now. I've had a number of cases that have come from him over the years, probably about 40 to 50 cases. 90% of them have been the same cut and paste case that's come through. It's like, oh, we've got this going on. And on that side of the realm, it is more religious and it's more of a religious base. So I see the other side of the cloth on that. And it's the basic premise is that you go in there, you interview the people, you get kind of an underlying situation of what's going on with them, and then you say, okay, the first step being is you need to go out and get a psychological test on your daughter or your family member who's experiencing that.
Right.
They disappear off the face of the planet, or they don't get it done, or something happens, and then that element is then moved out of it. The 10% that I've had after that, where we've had cases where I've had cases that have kind of taken that little step further, where they've gone and got psychological tests, and then we've gone into a place and started. I've gone to make the extra step to actually go in there and review what's going on. There's always been another underlying reason behind it, i.e. environmental, natural, and stuff like that. So you discount that. I've had one case that, so far that has drawn my interest more than anything else, and it's not what, because it's what you see on TV about demonic possession and stuff like that. Yeah, there is a lot to it. There is a lot to it, but there are some underlying facts that come through with it, and that particular case just made me kind of take a step back and think to myself, right, I'm thinking slightly ignorant here if I'm going to say that demons don't exist, that kind of realm of demon, through like the religious cult of, Catholic Church and Church of England and stuff like that. There is something out there, but I think if there is something out there, there is it's rare, and it's not that often foreseen. All of the cases that I've read over the years, like stuff that you guys have never seen on TV and stuff like that. All of the cases that I've read in relation to exorcisms and the various parts of that, there's always an element missing out of that equation. Always the medical side. Like science is never a part of that.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of take a step back on that threshold about when people say demons and possession, because I believe in demons in that respect. That's my belief. I believe that there's different cultures, and I believe that there's a negative, there's good and bad in ghosts, and I believe that realm is interpreted in some people think that that's demonic. But on the other side of that, with the possession part, I believe to a certain degree that sometimes psychologically that they, spirits can have an effect on you, but it's more to do with the fact with what's going on around you rather than what's going on in your head. And you're right, Kathy, in relation to, drugs and stuff like that has a factor and stuff like that. And I don't believe it draws that. It doesn't draw the spirit in. It makes things increase in your mind more than anything else. And it creates that bubble effect in your head.
It kind of creates a nest for them to build on. It
is, and I think with that element, and the priest that I work with in Washington, he agrees as well, because all of the so-called exorcists you see on Facebook and stuff like that, and and I'm going to use this name now, the Warrens, and all of those people that claim to be, removing demons, getting demons out of people's life and stuff like that. They're missing the science, but they're missing the medical part. They're missing that element. And that's what's really driving a hinge into that field as well. It's the fact that there's that part missing. Mm-hmm. So I went back up again on that. But that's kind of what I think. And it's a shame, because it's there's like the guy, the priest I work with in the States, I believe the cases he's been on and the experiences he's told me, because of the kind of person he is. He's not on Facebook, you're not going to see him, go to like Paracon or anything like that and walk around with, the Ghost Hunters t-shirt on and stuff like that. He's not going to walk around like that, and you're not going to. But like the cases and the things he's experienced, and he's underlying from the diocese. He gets direction from that, and he's trained at the Vatican, and like the experiences he's had, there's no denial that he's had those experiences, and he's like me. He's down to earth in what he's perceived and stuff like that.
Right.
So again, there's that element to it as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I know what you mean, because I think with anything, you try to go the scientific route first and sort of rule out any kind of mental illness or
Yeah.
schizophrenia or anything like that. I mean, the
It
first
Or
doesn't-
thing,
even some medications can cause hallucinations.
exactly.
Even blood pressure medicine, if it's up too high,
Yeah.
it can cause, all kinds of, different physiological and mental effects, right? So,
Absolutely.
It does, and like we're not like, as paranormal investigators, like we go out and search the paranormal stuff like that. We're not expected to know what medication does,
right.
or what it does and what the adverse effects are on people and stuff like that. But it's just us being aware that things like that can create that kind of that vision in some people, and it's the same as like buildings and poorly constructed buildings as well, like asbestos and carbon monoxide. Everyone walks around with the EMF meter and say, "Oh look, that's going to cause paranormal." It's like, hang on a minute, what about carbon monoxide? What about asbestos? There's other things as well, and it's just that I
Yeah.
guess I'm moving off the subject now, but it's that kind of ignorance where people are just taking what they see on TV as what thing could naturally be paranormal.
Well, and speaking of TV, I mean, TV itself has normalized a lot of the element, I guess, of, demonic or evil. I mean, if you look at some of these shows, you look at Sabrina, you look at Lucifer, these are mainstream TV shows that are coming out, and people are just absorbed. And I mean, even though they may not be dealing with the paranormal, they get wrapped up into this crap, and they really start using, I mean, let's look at Disney's Aladdin. That's a freaking jinn. If we want to put it into a basic element, right? And you got kids all over the world that are rubbing lamps, calling out that jinn. But, so it really depends on how somebody's brain can take something, absorb something, and put it into, it's like video games. Can you play a video game, a shoot up video game, and you're not going out onto the street and shooting everybody up? It's sort of that element, right? If you're watching Ghost Hunters or whatever, Zach Bagan running around screaming at everybody, for demons, are these people watching that and recognizing the fact that this is a freaking TV show?
Yeah.
It is, and you know what? On the flip side of that, that's not Baggins's fault. That's the people that actually view it.
It is the producers, absolutely.
Yeah, it is, and you know what? Like all dues to like Zach Baggins and stuff like that. He's made an industry. He's made a living, a very good living, out of doing what he's doing. It's just and you can't begrudge him for that. And it's like the same as like ghost hunters and stuff like that. And they create, they've created a show, and they are just, they're just actors that are going out
they're
there.
Doing what they're doing. They're not responsible for the rest of the nation, right? Like that's the thing.
That's the thing, and they're going out there and they're kind of theaterizing Hollywood, making Hollywood element of what we do. And everyone's like, yeah, I can do that. I can do exactly what they can do. And they're just, just splurting it out. And it's, it's just regurgitating exactly what they're doing on TV. But people are doing it in the field as well. And it's, you can't get rid of what goes on and stuff like that. And it has probably, and it's inspired a lot of good people to go, to become investigators and stuff like that. But it's the ignorance of people that have seen those shows on TV.
Yeah.
And think that is the real approach of how we investigate, and that and how TV is real, and it's
yeah, it's a dramatization of all of it. It's good TV. I mean, there's a difference between TV and what we do and good TV, and good TV apparently is demons.
It's crazy. It's like I don't know. If you're watching like a movie about zombie apocalypse and stuff like that, and next thing you know, you're going out and buying shotguns, and you're going around you're preparing yourself for an apocalypse, and you're like, well, that's the same kind of thing as what you're doing with ghost shows. You're watching ghost shows and you're believing kind of what's going on there, and you think that that's going to happen as well. That's why you go and spend thousands of bucks on bits of plastic that you don't know how to work, and you just sit in a dark room asking someone to touch you. And the only thing that's going to touch you is your cat.
That's true. And yet all ghost shows are not created equal, and yet they have the same elements. It's really interesting because we were talking the other day at home about the differences between, the British shows and the American shows. And it's really interesting because if you watch an episode of Ghost Adventures and then right after that you watch an episode of Help, My House is Haunted, they're the same, and yet they're so very different in their approach and how they actually go about doing the reveal. And it's just, it's so different. You're more likely to see demons on a Zach Bagans production than you are ever to see one on Help Your House My House is Haunted. It's crazy.
In the UK, we like our television, well, I say our, I live in Canada now, but the TV in the UK was, they were kind of the pioneers with ghost shows and stuff like that. Because even before Most Haunted, we had a show, it was called the Psychic Circle, the Magic Circle with Derek Decorum. And
I remember that. Actually, I do remember that. I seen that.
And that show went on for, I think it was about 6 or 7 years, and it had a lot of famous people from the field, not like, because celebrities and stuff like that, like parapsychologists and stuff like that. He went on the show and stuff like that. And like for me, with the shows like that, and then obviously Most Haunted came along at the early, I think they started in 2002, and it kind of dragged it along. And then Ghost, I can't remember what year Ghost Hunter started. Then Ghost Hunter started at the I think the mid part of the early part of the 2000 mark as well, and then they kind of dragged it along as well. But then, like, you could see that transition from the UK show to the North American shows, because it created more of that. What's that? What was that? Who's that? Who's that? Did you hear that? And it's just all of that theaterization that goes. It's like that's the North American TV way. It's all of that. Let's keep people with ghosts locked in and stuff like that. And no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, but it's good TV. Come on. It's really good TV.
I don't, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I haven't watched TV in years. Like, I watch documentaries. I watched that brilliant show, We Want to Believe, on YouTube as well.
Oh, I've heard of that. That's amazing. It's such a good show.
Yeah, the award-winning documentary show on YouTube. No, I'll be honest with you. I pick and choose what I want to watch on TV. I don't watch like the normal cable and stuff like that. I watch Netflix if I have to, and if I want to watch documentaries, I find them on YouTube or I find them somewhere, and like I can take it and leave it with TV. And it regardlessly if I watch it before, when I first came out to Canada and I started watching Ghost Hunters, and it used to frustrate the shit out of me the way that they used equipment poorly, and it was to the point where who was that? Announce yourself, young man. I can't remember what I was going to say. That I lost my channel of thought, but it's like I say, I just prefer documentaries and stuff like that, and the stuff I used to watch before on TV, it was just me looking at like TV shows like Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, and it's just like, what are you doing with that piece of equipment? It's just like, they've got like a K2 meter, and fair enough, that's a pile of shit anyway, but they've got that K2 meter and they're waving it around like a lightsaber, and they go, and they're standing right by a power meter and stuff like that, or they're in the mechanical room and they go, look, and then what used to piss me off, really wind me up, was the flashlight trick. It used to infuriate me. It's like, oh, the flashlight, come on, the demon must have turned the flashlight on. It's like, why don't you just turn the light on in the room? It's just like, why don't he just go and make, put the kettle on and make some tea or something like that? If it's going to go to the effort to manipulate a flashlight, why don't he start moving stuff around? And it's just,
and pick up its clothes, for God's sakes, right? And make our beds. Like, if you've got that much energy, put it to good use. You're staying in my house, dude.
I know exactly. It just, it kind of definitely rubbed me up the wrong way. But anyway, what do you think about TV shows then, Linda? Being a celebrity yourself?
Oh yeah, being a celebrity. Well, what's that? Oh, you can't see me.
We can't see who the Facebook user is on through StreamYard. So I'm thinking it's probably Mr. Cody. I'm betting. I could be wrong.
I'm going to find out. No. I'm going to hunt you down, whoever you are.
He's coming after you. Run, dude, run.
Oh my God. Listen, I wanted to say, Pete, you're right. I was on Paranormal Survivor for what? For 3 seasons. And yes, it did dramatize a lot of the cases that we were asked to comment on. But I have to say, all the cases were 100% real. And we were privy to the cases, to the information, to who these people were, where they occurred. And it was all real. So I have to say, in the defense of Paranormal Survivor, that really all the cases were absolutely real. So he's giving you hints, Pete.
It's Tammy. I know, Tammy. Sorry, I got very sidetracked. I was like, who is that?
No, it's good. You want to know who that is. I would want to know too.
Tammy. Tammy lives in the same hometown as where my wife and where my family were for a number of years.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Tammy was part of my team for a little while as well, and she was great. But the distance was a bit of a pain in the backside. But anyway, sorry. Carry on.
No, it's true. Honestly, all the cases were real. They did dramatize them. Yes. However, all the cases on that show were 100% true. And in their defense, they did want us to comment on why something might have been happening, how these things could have occurred. So, that I think was a more educational approach. Whereas a lot of shows, what used to get me the most on Ghost Hunters, I don't know if you two will agree, they'd go in there with, 20,000 feet of cable, take over somebody's house, and actually find some evidence. But then at the end, they would do their big reveal. And then they would say, well, we don't think that there's anything really going on here. Okay, a little bit. Maybe there's a ghost here, but I'm sure everything will be fine. Bye. And I used to think, oh my God. Let's just leave it. We don't have to do anything. It's fine.
They used to go for it used to make me laugh. They used to go for EVPs and stuff like that. And it'd be like, I'm going to fucking kill you. Oh, and they'd be like, no, there's nothing to worry about with that stuff. Okay, thanks, bye. And then as
have a good day. You just call us if you need anything, Don't pick up the phone.
Just give us a call. We're here for you. Really?
It was that follow-up element that there was. I think that they changed the concept, and it was the fact that they said that if you guys needed any more help and stuff like that, give us a call. But and they obviously they had the Taps family as well. That was a kind of a resource for them as well. But it gave you the earlier shows was like that. It definitely painted the picture of the fact that there was no recourse after investigation, and there was things that went on that they showed the client, and it wasn't to the point of a voice going, I'm going to kill you or anything like that. But it was, there was some EVPs there and stuff like that. And, they were showing the client what it was. And they took the right attitude where they didn't try and brainwash them to think what they were, what they think they were hearing and stuff like that. But I don't sound funny. If I was Joe Schmo, lived on the street, and all of a sudden I got a strange voice coming through on a voice recorder, that would scare the shit out of me. And if someone turned around and said to me, "Oh, don't worry about it," and and then they just went off on their merry selves and they drove off into the sunset, that would still, I'd still have sleepless nights now. And so,
yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about the Warrens before.
yes.
And that's another topic too. I mean, what do you think about the Warrens? And I'll preface that too, because I watched, oh gosh, I think it was called something like The World's Scariest People or Scariest People. And they were talking about Ronald DeFeo and that whole thing with the Amityville Horror. And they went on and on about, why it happened, why it suddenly became the House of Horror and not just the house that these murders took place in. And it was fascinating because the way that it was worded, it made anyone watching it realize that, these people were sort of swayed to believe that it was a demonic entity that was influencing the murders. And
I think William, I think Lutz, though, the father, I think he had a great part in that.
Yes.
At the fact that he wanted to get out of the mortgage to begin with. The mortgage had been too much for him. And I think that people just sort of, all he really needed to do was to find the right people to have him, to believe in him.
Yeah, there was because we did a show on that for the Paranormal Network, right. And I can't remember the exact details of what we researched, but there was a dinner party a few months after, like, the whole Amityville thing, not the actual Amityville incident thing, but when Lucy's bought the house and stuff like that, and it was actually admitted that it was all a big hoax, and that kind of put into sway about the Warrens and their participation on it as well, because everyone was buying into that shit, and it kind of stinges that element of trust when you get burnt like that. And it was the same with the Enfield poltergeist as well, where it was quoted that Ed and Lorraine were over in the Enfield poltergeist house, and they did various things, and that they were a part of the whole thing as well. And it was actually quoted in one of their books as well, which I've read, and they said at the time, like, the guys that were actually did the investigation, they said that they weren't even allowed near the property,
right,
because of the sensitivity of what was going on. And they knew at that time that the element of the Warrens were for that, that stylight and stuff like that, and for them to be, they were celebrities in what they did, and they were on chat shows, and they were doing like they were doing the TV thing, and to that degree. But with them, I don't put a lot of trust in what they said. I've read 3 of their autobiographies. 3 different authors have written, 3 different books about them themselves, with various interviews and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, like, all of the cases they speak of, there's zero validation in any of those cases in the respect of credible witnesses that are people that you can look up and people that you could actually say, oh, okay, let's ask so-and-so about this case that they mentioned in the book. And there's that huge breakaway from that, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, and yet they're very well respected. I mean, honestly, they're very well respected. I mean, and people like, for instance, John Zaffis, and, well, you remember that show called Paranormal State?
I've got the DVD.
Well, I have a lot to say about Paranormal State, because we had encounters with Mr. Ryan.
Yep.
And they were never positive. I don't want to go into a place where, that could get, anybody, but let's just say there was a lot of publicly known bullshit that was going on. And we actually came as a team, because he did become friends with an ex-member of our team. Well, they were a member at the time. And we had to say to them, you have to make a choice. You have to choose Paranormal State, or you got to choose here in Edmonton. Because we are scared that through the process of Paranormal State and this person himself, there is going to be lawsuits. There's probably going to be criminal federal charges laid against this human. And we want nothing to do with it. So we are going to completely separate from that element. And you have to make a choice. And if you make that choice, you can no longer, if you want to associate with them, hey, all the blessings to you, go have it. And they did choose that. And it was a bad, bad burn. I mean, thankfully, there was no criminal charges against this person because she didn't participate in anything that was criminal. Does that make, you know what I mean? But, sometimes known associations can cause just as much trouble as, just even if you're not a part of it. And, she's very lucky that she got away from that element, and she wasn't participating in anything. Like I wouldn't, there was that element wasn't there for her, but it was the thrill of being able to work with this team. And it just came to a point where we were, there's not a freaking chance. You cannot associate with us and Paranormal State. And it was done. Yeah, it was done. We had to cut those ties because we did not want that name associated with us. And they were popular at that time. I mean, this was, Chad, what was his name? Chad, yeah, him and Ryan's movie had just come out. It was a big, they were huge. They still had some, Paranormal State episodes coming through, and we were like, done. We met Chad. Chad was a nice guy, beautiful, human being, nice, seemed genuine, all of that. But meeting Ryan was Chad not an experience I'd want to do.
Yeah, Chad broke ways with Ryan shortly after that, because he faked cancer, didn't he? Because there was that
pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, and then there was he came to Vancouver. They were supposed to come to Vancouver and done a they were doing like some kind of ghost tour of one of the theaters in Vancouver, and they charged I think it was about $40-50 a head for them to go in there. Anyway, it sold out because they're TV and stuff like that. Chad wasn't a part of it then, but he had all, there was Ryan and I think what was his friend's name, Zeth or whatever. Sergi, that's one.
Yeah, that's right.
And he pulled out because he had, he claimed to have cancer, and then it was a big thing, and sorry, but the tickets were non-refundable, and so it just carried on, and then it came out that it was just a big scam, and then and it's just. Yeah, that's a bottom of the barrel, and that unfortunately.
Well, and the thing is that if we had chosen that path, not that we would have been on any of the tours or but all you need is that one name. I think it was Chip Coffee that unfortunately ended up with. Thankfully that a lot of people also knew of Chip Coffee and his reputation. Michelle, I believe. Yes. She works with you guys, or you've met her. She was part of that, and unfortunately all you need is that name attached in some way, and you're going, you're being flushed down with it, and you have to crawl your way up the pipes rather than, try to, maintain, you have to up your integrity. Even if you were, you had a lot of integrity before, if you're associated with those names that are flushing down the toilet, you got to triple time your own work to maintain a good reputation.
Right. Well, didn't somebody just ask a question?
Yeah, there's a interesting question here, and I think that's come from Tammy. So we'd like to know which shows that y'all believe to be the most realistic. What do you think, y'all? What do y'all think?
What do y'all think? What do y'all think?
Come back, y'all here. Sorry.
There's so many of them. I mean, there are so many of them. God, that's a hard question. That's a really hard question because, they all have their realistic bits and pieces, but because they're TV shows, they have to inject some sort of either drama or, a reenactment that might be a little cheesy. Or, I mean, for instance, you've got a show like, what's that one? Oh gosh, The Dead Files.
Okay. Yeah.
So, the psychic medium,
Amy.
Yeah, she does her walkthrough, and then, they talk to the clients, and Steve does his thing. And I mean, I like that show. I think that is maybe a little bit more realistic than most. I like the fact that there's that unknown element, and then at the end they come together and they try to sort of link some of what she does and some of what he does. I like that. I think that's a really interesting concept, and I do think that that's maybe a little more realistic. I don't know. Some of the advice I always had a hard time dealing with.
Right, because it's hard to find a shaman in the middle of like a metropolis,
right,
or a green white witch earth or something, witch or
a chaos magician. Like that got me when she said a chaos magician, and I went, okay, I've been in this field for 40 friggin' years, but I still don't know what a chaos magician is. Oh my God, help me.
Like those are things that you're not gonna, where's the yellow pages?
Yeah. Where do I find a chaos magician? Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. But I do.
Person though.
Yeah.
She seems very, very genuine. Very, very genuine. And, I do believe, every show has that element of drama, obviously.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. The Holzer Files is interesting. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I haven't.
No, I don't watch TV, so.
That's not a bad one. I always tell my team, like, watch the good, the bad, and the ugly, because then, you sort of find little elements here and there, and you learn about what not to do most of the time. But the Holzer Files is interesting because there's a lot of, there's that element of history. That whole Hans Holzer thing. And if you're new to the field, that's always a good thing to do, is to kind of, research the pioneers in the field and see what they've done and who they've worked with. And if you're new to the field, you might not know who Hans Holzer is, and you may not know who, Sybil Leek is, that he worked with extensively. You might not know about some of these cases that he worked on. And then what they do is they revisit the cases, and they revisit the locations, and it's kind of interesting. It's done in conjunction with his daughter, Alexandra Holzer. So there's that, that tied in element there. So it's not a bad show. Not a bad show.
I want to answer this one question. Somebody is asking, how did Chip and Michelle not feel the negative energy? I'm going to address that for a second. I think that what people don't understand is that when you're part of a production, and you've probably had to deal with this, Linda, probably maybe not on that particular show, but when people are part of a production, what you don't understand is that you do what the producers say. And you have, and if you've locked into a contract, you're pretty much stuck in that contract, or you could lose a ton of freaking money. You could lose a ton of your reputation. It's not that easy. Now, when we did talk to, I believe it was Chad, there was things that, he had mentioned to us, and he had said it in a group setting, so I don't feel like I'm this was pretty massive group setting. But because he was off the show at that time, so he was able to talk, and he said, look at, if you said, I don't agree with this element, if they want to take a fishing wire and move a chair and they say, I don't agree with that. Oh, you don't. Okay. Well,
Right.
that flight that was from California to Alaska that you could have done in one day, you know, in like that 8 or 10 hour trip is now a week.
Oh boy.
And it's on the crickiest airplane that you could possibly find, in the crappiest hotels with the most bug infested, no running toilets. Like, they put you through hell. So it's not a matter of did they not feel it. They probably more than likely did, because both of them are quite strong in their gifts. Can they say it? Can they do anything about it? They're locked into massive contracts that could ruin them, ruin their reputation, and, you know, and make it extremely difficult. And then, like I said, you know, you're pretty much stuck. You could end up taking a dog sled all the way from California all the way to Alaska. Like, you know, this is what's going to happen. And so you're pretty much
Wow.
do as I say.
Sad. That's so sad.
And that I feel like that was really important to let them know, because a lot of people, they judge, you know, how come they didn't say anything? Well, they knew. Okay, but yeah, they may have known. But, you know, here's the thing. Is it going to be, I mean, there's a difference between, you know, really revealing what could be extremely harmful, or, you know, okay, well, is it negative energy? Do I not like being here? Hey, they don't have to be their friends. They don't have to pal around with them, you know, offset.
Right.
But they have to be cordial while they're on the set with these people.
Yeah.
And that's really all they had to do. So
you're going on about their reputations and stuff like that. So they're basically tarnishing their reputations anyway, because they've been told to talk bullshit. So it's
unfortunate. Yeah, it is.
If you're being dragged into a circle like that, you're kind of you know that you're at one point, because TV is TV, regardless of whether you know whether you believe it or not. At some point, your name is going to be dragged through the hedges, and you're going to be told to come up with some bullshit just to make that Hollywood glamour kind of thing. And I've, you know, with TV, documentaries are great, because they're, you know, like the Holzer thing is, you know, they're documentaries and they're great, but the TV shows like with the Ghost Hunters and, you know, the Ghost Adventures and stuff like that, a lot of those shows started off with credible cases. And I know that for a fact, because a friend of mine, I'm not going to mention his name, wasn't a part of one of those shows in an early day. And then all of a sudden they flipped it, and they suddenly started saying to them that they had to fabricate things. That's why a lot of the co-hosts on certain shows, mention no names, have walked away because of that fact, where all of a sudden they're now kind of taking a step back and thinking, well, all of the things that we found, was it all a lie? Yeah. That kind of thing. Was it them glamorizing because they, you know, they go out and do investigations and they've got all the swanky equipment and stuff like that? Then they have teams of researchers that takes that equipment away, and they do the EVPs. They go for the EVPs, and then they're presenting the evidence after, and it's just like, oh, okay, we found this voice, we found that voice. They're like, holy shit! And then all of a sudden, after a while, the ratings start to drop. And they're told that they have to start fabricating things. Right. That's when people walked away, and that happened to someone I know, and that's happened on more than one show as well, where that's happened, where they started off a legitimate TV show, and then, you know, the ratings start plummeting, and they're like, okay, what are we going to do? So we start introducing theaterized music, dum dum dum, and we're going to start making shit up, and that's what makes people watch, is that thrill moment where something happens. And unfortunately, what we do as investigators doesn't constitute of a 30-minute show.
Yeah, I think I was trying to put this up here. Oh, there she is. Okay. Oh. And then I put it down. Hang on a second. I'm getting this technical. Yeah, and they say, I think not saying anything in the end result with Ryan sullied the reputation. And it's very true. It did sully the reputation. You know, in some cases, I don't know if it's a matter of not seeing anything could ruin you financially. But they all came out afterwards, and they were, pretty open about some of the crap. It's unfortunate, though, that it didn't happen at the time. And that probably would have saved a lot of good, innocent people from these tours that a lot of people threw thousands of dollars away, because some of those tours were more than $50. Yeah. They were, the airplane, the hotel, all of this. And on top of it, they charge, like, some of those tours were $2,000 per person, and they'd have, 20, 30 people. He made a fortune. And it's unfortunate that they didn't stand up at that time, because look at how many people, could have. Yeah.
Unfortunately now with all the TV shows, everyone's got, over the last, Ghost Hunters has been around 20 something years now, like close to that, 18, 20 years, something like that. And everyone's kind of wised up to what they do now. Well, like we probably have, because, we've been around the block, a few times, that kind of thing. But unfortunately now, regardlessly of how authentic you try and be on TV, you're still painted with the same brush, and that's something you can't walk away from. Even our show, We Want to Believe, when we first started, it was it was good when we first started. Like, it was perceived as a documentary and a fly on the wall, and then the editor of the show, Jason, not that Jason, but another Jason, started getting creative with some of the editing and stuff like that. And it started to pull into that direction of, like the Ghost Hunters and stuff like that. And it became that show where it was just like, hang on a minute, I'm having, this is starting to look like a show that I'm starting to dislike and stuff like that. But then we had to bring it back to how it was, kind of thing. And it's that line in the sand where how you perceive your show to be, kind of thing, and more than anything else. And it's that, I guess it's how you connect to the audience as well, to a degree, whether you seem authentic as well in the way you present yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why I think what I do when I watch a paranormal show, I tend to gravitate towards those that may show a little bit about the history of the paranormal, revisit some of those locations, but concentrate on that sort of documentary aspect. Whereas I find I don't like most of the shows that show them in action, doing their thing. Because let's face it, as paranormal investigators, you cannot guarantee to anyone a paranormal experience. It doesn't matter whether it's on TV or whether you invite people to an event and you wander through a supposedly or purportedly haunted house with a million pieces of equipment. You can't guarantee that they're going to have an experience. And you know how many hours you sit in a room or at a haunted location and nothing happens. I mean, the most exciting thing that happens is somebody's stomach makes noise because they're hungry and you think it's an EVP. So, yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
It's so true, though.
It is true. It is true.
Yeah.
So, Pete, you were going to ask us another question. Do we have like 1 minute?
We have. I actually had like about 3 or 4, but we can probably save that for another show. But I'm gonna bring up the subject of psychics.
Oh. Okay.
There's a difference between psychics and psychos. You know that?
Yes, I know. That's the definitive question. So. Okay, Cathy, obviously being a practicing medium as you are, what is your opinions on psychics?
Okay.
Drum roll.
Where's the popcorn? Where's the popcorn?
He'll get it ready and get it popped. No, okay. So I mean, for me, I'm not one of those people that ever took courses and, I had to take medium courses or I did this course and that course. I don't have any accreditation on my walls anywhere saying that I am, the psychic to the stars or the psychic 3rd level warrior, plutonium, starseed, crystal warrior. I don't know, whatever the fuck they come up with, right? I don't have anything like that. I could make some, maybe. I don't know.
I know.
Sorry, there's a motorcycle outside.
I wondered what that was your stomach, Kathy. I was going to say you should be eating.
Told you to make that popcorn.
I know.
But I he look at now, he's frozen.
I was frozen. That's funny.
You too, dude.
You are frozen. You are frozen.
So for me, I didn't know what I had. That sounds like a disease. I didn't know that people, for me personally, I thought everybody knew when the phone was who was on the phone on the other line. This is before call display. Right. This is the way that's, I didn't understand why you guys didn't figure it out. Not maybe you in particular, but for me, this was normal. This was a normal thing. I would look at somebody and I could feel, or I don't know how to explain it. It was like, I knew that they would, it was like you're shown a path. I guess that's the best way to say it. You're shown in a matter of seconds what they could do.
Right.
And I used to have my friends all the time when I was in high school and I couldn't figure it out. And they finally told me when we were in our 20s, why do you think we brought all our boyfriends to you? Because you're the one that knew who not to go near. I didn't. I mean, for me, I was just like, I don't like them. I don't like this person. I can't tell you why.
You just don't.
This is what I feel that they're going to do. I feel that energy. I feel that they're going to A, take your money, or B, do so, or maybe sometimes I'm shown a picture of something that they could possibly do. And at the time, because I wasn't developed in the gift, I hadn't really, to me, it was just like, why am I getting shown them doing this? That doesn't make any sense. But then they would do it. And you're like, damn, like, did I dream that? So it's a very confusing process that you have to go through.
Right.
But it also put me into a place of doing a huge deep dive on myself. And that's why when I see, and okay, I'm going to say, there's nothing wrong with, if you want to develop your skills, by all means, go for it. But I do kind of have a serious problem with people that are, like I said, I am the accredited queen of the cats of the star seed of the solar system, this psychic medium. Fuck off. If you have to have 800 plaques on your wall to say that you have a gift, maybe you got to wonder about, it's not the same as being a doctor. This is different, right? And a true psychic, a true medium has done the deep dive, not just the deep dive into the spiritual realm, but the deep dive into their own psyche, their own soul, the darkness of the freaking dark that they can possibly go into. Doesn't mean I was, in the corner, in a fetal position crying, but you go into a place that you are pulling out the strongest, the dark of your core, because you have to. And you also have to be in a place being able to present something to a client that is diplomatic, honest, and truthful. And that's where I have a really hard time with things. And, I do this as a job, but I don't introduce myself as, hey, I'm Kathy the psychic. Does it, you know what I mean? And I feel like when people have to, on Facebook, yes, of course, on my job, of course, because otherwise people aren't going to know what the hell I do. It's like you have to advertise. But, if I was to meet somebody in the street, that's not my first thing I'm going to say. In fact, my son, I think my daughters actually, say that, oh, our mom's a psychic or she's a medium or whatever they want to, however, whatever phrase they want to put in. My son says I'm a spiritual consultant.
There you go.
So, my mom tells people I'm a life coach, because that's really essentially kind of what we do. Right. And so, or a spiritual life coach, because you are doing that guidance towards